AITA for throwing them out of a house that we own. Son and future in-laws decide to exclude his family from wedding. They thought son owned the house, not us. My wife and I bought a 4-bedroom house in PA that my son lives in. Our son went to college in PA and wanted to stay in the area. So we bought the house as a second home. We live in NJ and commute into Manhattan for work. We figured that he would have a place to live and we could visit every so often and spend some quality time together. We pay the taxes and services, maintenance on the house, our son pays for his groceries and the house utilities. All was going well for a few years. Our son meets a girl, and they get serious. We met her, and she seems nice enough. They announce their engagement, and she moves into the house with our son. Now for the problem, the wedding. We hold a little get-to-know-you BBQ at the PA house. My son and daughter are there, as are our son's fiancée and her parents and sisters. We all seem to be getting along well. My wife, daughter, and the fiancé go into the house along with her mother and sisters and my son. A few minutes later, my wife and daughter come out and are really upset. They come over and tell me we're leaving and driving back to NJ. I try to find out what happened. Once we get back to NJ and they calm down, they tell me that our son and his fiancé, along with her family, don't want us at the wedding. According to what I was told, we're not their kind of people. I was livid. I called my son and asked him WTH this was about. He tells me that her family feel that we are not good enough and will embarrass them at a family wedding and that we are all uninvited from the wedding. I let a week go by to calm myself down and drive back to the PA house. The new future in-laws are in the house, along with the fiancé. It appears that they all moved into the house. They ask me why I'm there. I tell them that since we aren't invited to the wedding, I was coming over to talk to my son. They tell me to leave their house. I lost it and told them that they had 30 days to get out. Tell my son I'm selling the house and he could find somewhere else to live with all of you. I go to a realtor in town and list the house for sale. They call my son at work and tell him what I said. Apparently they thought that he owned the house. He calls me and asks why I'm selling his house. I tell him I paid for it along with the taxes on it, and it is mine. He was living there rent-free, but since he doesn't want us in his new life, he has to get out. I tell him the same as I told his future in-laws they have 30 days to get out, then I'll get a lawyer and get them evicted. Am I the AH for taking a hard stance on this? He is my son, but the in-laws seem to take over and we no longer count.
AITA for telling cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card? Throw away because husband told me I was TA and want to know before I get home and argue. On phone format is bad. I was in a higher-end department store today, rhymes with looming tales, and happened to end up next to 2 teenage-aged girls while shopping. One of the girls had picked out a pair of very expensive boots, and they were both fawning over them. Second girl must have looked at price tag and asks Boots girl if she's really going to spend that much on boots. Girl with boots says something along the lines of, "It's fine. I have my dad's credit card. I'm not paying," which instantly caught my attention because that's not her card. I've told my son multiple times he's never allowed to use my card, so I'm interested to see how this girl thinks she's going to get away with fraud but had split up from the girls at this point because they had found something else. We end up at the same register, me behind, and I see her total hit well over 4 digits. The girl is about to swipe her card when I decide that I can't let her get away with something like this and someone has to parent this kid if no one else will. I tell cashier that isn't her card but her father's and I'm not sure she has permission. Girl and friend turn and glare at me, giving me possibly the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I swear this girl was going to throw a tantrum right there. I don't think she was ever told no. Girl tells cashier her father gave her the card to shop with because it's the store's credit card and it gives him the points. Now that I've pointed out it wasn't hers, cashier tells her she can't use that card. Girl tries to show ID to prove they have the same last name. Yeah, that will help. And I tell her it's still fraud. Girl says it's not fraud because she has permission and tells me to mind my own business. I tell her that it is my business that she's doing something illegal she needs to pay with her own card, or I call the cops. Girl is pissed now and people are glaring at me. She uses her own card and leaves crying. Cashier looks mad at me and I tell my husband when I get home only for him to agree I was in the wrong. So, AITA?
AITA for ruining both my parents' marriages for disowning me. I am the byproduct of my parents' extramarital affair. Both of them had spouses at the time. My birth mother got pregnant and had to tell her husband, as he was overseas, when I was conceived, so there was no way I was his. A few months after I was born, they decided not to divorce. I was given to my grandparents on my mother's side to raise with my birth father secretly paying child support without his wife's knowledge. Both my parents had other children. My dad's side knows nothing about me, but my siblings on my mom's side were told that I am adopted by my grandparents. Recently, I decided that I wanted to know more about my dad's family, and I sent a friend's request to one of my siblings and my dad so I could get to know him. Well, he freaked out and contacted my birth mom, and they asked to speak to me over Skype. They both told me that they couldn't risk staying in contact with me, and told me that they were going no contact, and to please respect it and move on with my life. Well, I did pretty much the opposite. I contacted my dad's wife and shared screenshots of our conversations and told her everything. She is now divorcing him, while on my mother's side, I told both my siblings, who then went on to tell extended family, including her husband's side, so now they are separated, and my siblings hate my mother. Currently, my siblings on both sides' lives have been upturned, and after the satisfaction has worn off, I feel like I unnecessarily hurt them through my parents. AITA for ruining my parents' marriages.
AITA for shouting at my ex in front of my daughters. I, 37M, have 3 girls, 8, 10, and 12. Their mother walked out on us for another man when our youngest was around 4. My ex still stays in contact, though, and pays child support. A few weeks ago, while doing laundry, I saw red spots on my oldest's underwear. I asked her if she knew about it, and she cried and told me she tried to call her mom, but my ex didn't call back. She'd been stuffing toilet paper in her underwear, hoping that would work. I explained to her that periods are nothing to be ashamed of, and found some great resources online for us to review together. I took her to the store to pick out brands of feminine products she wanted to use. She picked Playtex Sport because she's a gymnast. After we were done, I decided I should do the same thing with my other 2. My 12-yo volunteered to be part of preparing them, and we made a whole night of it. It was wonderful, and I learned a lot. I even learned what a menstrual cup is, and how they benefit the environment. The other day, my ex called back. I'll usually arrange a video chat and leave the room so they can have some alone time. And when they're done chatting, I'll come back in to talk boring co-parenting stuff, like school, bills, etc. This last time, my ex was furious with me for talking about periods with the girls. She shouted at me that I was sick and perverted. Why didn't I call her myself if I knew it was so urgent? I could have called one of their grandma's aunts. But my mom has dementia, while her mom and sisters call me a loser because I teach kindergarten, so I'm not fond of them. My ex told me I was being immature and should have just toughed it out for the girls. This really pissed me off, so I shouted back that maybe if she wasn't such a deadbeat and answered her goddamn phone once in a while, she could have handled this. I brought up everything she does that hurts them. She hasn't been to a single soccer game, piano recital, or gymnastics meet in 2 years. Every other weekend when they come home from her house, they go straight to their rooms, only to emerge hours later asking me why she loves her new husband more than them, and what did they do to make her leave. My ex responded by saying I should tell them it's not their fault I couldn't satisfy her, and I screamed, "Fuck you." And she just smirked and pointed behind me, saying, "Look what you did." When I turned around, my 8yo and 10yo were standing in the doorway crying. It broke my heart. I never shout, so I know I scared them. My 12yo stormed in and started screaming at her mom. And while I appreciate her sticking up for me, this is not a battle I want her fighting. My ex hung up before I could fully de-escalate the situation. And let's just say, the girls have been given free reign of the ice cream and limitless hours of video games because I feel so bad. I even watched all the Twilight movies with them, so don't say I don't love them. But in this instance, AITA for shouting, AITA for deleting my friend's wedding photos in front of them. I'm not really a photographer. I'm a dog groomer. I take lots of photos of dogs all day to put on my Facebook and Instagram. It's my thing, if that makes sense. A cut and a photo with every appointment. I very seldom shoot things other than dogs, even if I have a nice setup. A friend got married a few days ago and wanting to save money asked if I'd shoot it for them. I told him it's not really my forte, but he convinced me by saying he didn't care if they were perfect. They were on a shoestring budget, and I agreed to shoot it for $250, which is nothing for a 10-hour event. On the day of, I'm driving around following the bride as she goes from appointment to appointment before the ceremony, taking photos along the way. I shoot the ceremony itself, and during the reception I'm shooting speeches and people mingling. I started around 11 a.m. and was due to finish around 7:30 p.m. Around 5 p.m., food is being served, and I was told I cannot stop to eat because I need to be photographer. In fact, they didn't save me a spot at any table. I'm getting tired and at this point kind of regretting doing this for next to nothing. It's also unbelievably hot. The venue is in an old Veterans Legion and it's like 110F and there's no AC. I told the groom I need to take off for 20 minutes to get something to eat and drink. There's no open bar or anything. I can't even get water and my 2 water bottles are long empty. He tells me I need to either be photographer or leave without pay. With the heat, being hungry, being generally annoyed at the circumstances, I asked if he was sure, and he said yes. So I deleted all the photos I took in front of him and took off, saying I'm not his photographer anymore. If I was to be paid $250, Honestly, at that point, I would have paid $250 just for a glass of cold water and somewhere to sit for 5 men hours. Was I the asshole? They went right on their honeymoon and they've all been off of social media, but a lot of people have been posting on their wall asking about photos with 0 responses. AITA for saying my babysitting rates are $35 an hour. I'm a software engineer with a full-time job and a side hustle of doing freelance coding work in my own time. I've always been the type to have a side hustle I put a lot of my free time into. I get really bored sitting idle. My freelance hourly rates are $60 an hour, and at my full-time job, my hourly pay works out to about $40 an hour. So that's how I value my time. Anyway, over Christmas vacation, I was staying at my parents' house. My cousin was also staying over with her 3 young kids from Christmas to New Year's. I'd been planning on doing some work on my freelance projects when I had free time, in the mornings when my family had no plans. I wasn't in any rush. I was already ahead of schedule on them all. But I didn't really have anything else to do. It was in a really rural area, and it's like an hour drive to the nearest anything. Then my cousin and her husband asked if I could babysit all day for 3 days, so they could visit some friends in the area and hang out with just adults. I said I had planned on doing freelance work at the library, and she offered to pay me to babysit. I said I could if they got close to my freelance rates. She wanted a number, and although my freelance rates are $60, I didn't feel like that was right. It was high. But I didn't want to go too low. Honestly, babysitting 3 kids would be harder for me than the routine coding work I had for my freelance project. I don't know a lot about kids, and I've never babysat for long, and I had a feeling it would be stressful and difficult. So I said $35, which is below what I make hourly at work, and what is the bare minimum I'd value my time for, if that time is spent doing difficult work. And she went crazy at me, saying that's a ridiculous rate for babysitting, that I was entitled and being selfish, that I'm trying to take advantage of how she didn't have other options, etc. I said, that's way below what I'd be making if I had the time to do my own work, and I'd be putting off my own work to babysit. Her husband then got mad at me saying that I was a 24-year-old girl, that I'm damn near a child myself, that my time is not worth that much, and it's childish to say that it was, and that I was a stupid girl for not knowing that babysitting costs like $15 an hour. When I grew up and have kids of my own, I will see how stupid I was being. I was kind of done with being called stupid, so I just told them I hoped they could find someone else. My mom thinks that I asked for something offensive, and my cousin and her husband obviously did too. AITA for giving that number, AITA for firing an employee. After his parents died, I'm the VP of sales at a software company, and one of our sales development reps' parents passed away at the beginning of April. Sadly, they were involved in a car crash, and both lost their lives. Now the employee in question, a very young 22-year-old guy, and has been with us for about 10 months now. He's a great employee, and we were thinking about promotions in the next about 6 months for him. His job is a high-paying one for a new grad, about 90 kilo with commission and base, so we expect a lot from this position. Because of the accident, we let him take a 1-month paid leave of absence from work, and he's returned a few weeks ago, and his performance is severely lacking. He's super unmotivated, not cold calling, outreaching to prospects for the last 2 to 3 weeks enough since he's come back. Our whole MGMT team has noticed this, and we decided to let him go, because we feel like he'd need months and months to be able to produce again, and we can't just wait that long. We called him into a meeting on Friday afternoon and gave him the bad news. He was very calm and rude about it. Told us to go fuck ourselves and got up and went to his desk, grabbed his few things and left. I thought this was very, very unprofessional and extremely rude. I told my boyfriend about all of this, and he said myself and my MGMT team are a bunch of asses and pricks with no hearts. AITA? Update. Holy fuck, this blew up. I know this was shitty of me now, and I reached out to him to see how he's holding up. He's staying at his GF's place, and she's supporting him a lot right now. I offered to get my headhunter friend in touch with him when he's ready, and he accepted. AITA for speaking Italian to my GF's rude Italian-American family and embarrassing them? Backstory. Due to my dad's job, we lived in Italy for 3 years when I was younger, so I speak Italian almost fluently. It's been a while, so I've lost some of it. Recently, I started dating a girl. She's great, and I love her so much. I met her family a few nights ago for dinner. She warned me that the male side of her family is very big into being macho, into testing the boys the women date, and are very big on taking pride in their Italian ancestry. I think besides the grandfather, however, they were almost all born in Bergen County, NJ. But whatever, it's nice to take pride in one's heritage. Long story short, at dinner, they kept making jokes at my expense. I honestly would not call it bullying, just things about my height, beard, shaved head. They tried making fun of my IT job too, but stopped once I told them my income. It was overall not a bad experience, but a not so pleasant one. Anyways, her older brother kept pushing things, giving me exceptional amounts of shit for playing lacrosse in HS. Apparently, it's a sport for prissy rich kids and not manly like football or baseball. He ended his rant by saying, "Hey, we're just a big Italian family. We're loud. And tell it how we see it." Ha 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 ha. And all the family except my girlfriend laughed. So I, for the next minute, responded to everything they said in Italian. My girlfriend buried her head in shame, the grandfather laughed, and everyone else kept looking at each other confused before telling me they didn't speak Italian. I replied, "Then don't use your Italian heritage as an excuse to behave poorly when you can't even speak the language." They got mad, but the grandfather told them all I was right and to be quiet. My girlfriend isn't mad, just ashamed. I think the grandfather likes me, but word from my GF's sister is that all the men are furious, think I'm a smartass, and that I disrespected them and their masculinity in an unforgivable way. So AITA, update. There may have been some confusion as to my GF's reaction. She was ashamed her family dug so deep into me, not about my response. After wanting to die for the next 48 hours, she agreed I did the right thing, and that it was funny.
AITA for making a scene of my adult son and sticking my nose in his marriage. I'm 60 and bad with the whole text thing on mobiles, so I'm hoping I won't be judged on my grammar. Here's the important background. My daughter-in-law, 32, and son, 33, have 3 children aged 3 years, 2 years, and 4 months. He convinced her to be a stay-at-home mom and sell her business by telling her how good of a childhood he had and how happy my marriage was without telling her, which I today found out, that our arrangement was everything. Everything before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. was split. 50-50. Sunday was my day off, and I was brought out twice a week. On to the story. On my last visit, I noticed my daughter-in-law was struggling mentally, so I, my sister, 55F, and her girlfriend, 53, pulled our money together and paid for a spa weekend for them while we'd babysit the kids for her birthday last weekend. I was preparing on Thursday evening for the kids to arrive when my dill rang me, holding back tears, saying they won't be going because my son's friend came to town and he said he wanted to spend the weekend with his friends, catching up. I pressed her a little, and I'm talking a little about her situation. She came clean about him doing no chores, no date nights, and her, basically, doing all of the childcare because that's what stay-at-home moms do. I was honestly disgusted. I convinced her to drop me off the kids and bring a friend to the spa. I even dipped into my savings to give her $500 to buy herself something nice. When she dropped me off the kids, I begged her to tell me where son was after 5 minutes. She told me the bar. She left for the spa while I left for the bar. She knew I was going there and knew my sister-in-law, were taking care of the kids. Here's where I might be the asshole. I went to the bar where he and his friends were. I sat down next to the group and asked my son, "Did I fail you as a mother? Or was it your father because we both thought your partner comes before your silly drunk friends?" The post is getting long enough, but long story short, I humiliated him and got myself banned from a bar. My dill said she will taking the kids to her parents when she gets back tomorrow, and my son is calling me an asshole for humiliating him, sticking my nose in his marriage. Maybe I should have stayed out. I don't know, Edit. I just wanted to say I'm heartbroken, not by any judgment towards me or my parenting skills, but the fact a lot of people are shocked. I care about my daughter-in-law's mental health and stood up for her against my son's bad behavior. I just want to say as a mother, my advice is treat your daughter, son, non-binary in-laws how you'd want your children to treated. Respect goes a long way.
AITA for getting mad my artist hid their initials in my tattoo. This is a short one. Names changed for privacy. I went to a tattoo shop in my area with a photo of the tattoo I wanted. It was one my dad had gotten to honor my past grandfather whose father also had it. But the point is, it was important to me that the tattoo looked exactly as it did in the photo. I get to the shop, I explain everything, I pay, get the tattoo, and we're done. I think it looks awesome, everything is great, until a few weeks later when I show my great-grandmother the tattoo. She's static, grabs my arm to look at and compliment it, then asks, "Who's AJ?" I ask her what she means, and she points out on the tattoo where the initials A and J or maybe T were hidden into the tattoo. I'm instantly pissed, as my artist's name is Alice Trevor. She tries to assure me it's no big deal if I hadn't noticed it till now, but I still reached out to the artist sort of irritated. They told me the style of art I got is called traditional. And it's pretty trad for all artists who do that style to do it. I demanded a partial refund, and they refused. So I complained to the owner who made the artist give me a full refund. Now the artist is running a full smear campaign, talking about moving shops and all kinds of crap. My sister says I'm an asshole for pushing the issue, but I feel like, at the end of the day, I told you exactly what I wanted and you didn't do that. AITA? AITA for not saying anything about the underwear? My 20-year-old daughter and her fiancé are currently staying with us. I love my daughter, but she is very difficult, and I can't stand her fiancé. I gave them a deadline to move out, because I can't take this anymore. They got into a massive fight the other day while my wife was out. I guess a pair of my wife's underwear got in with their laundry, and she thought he was cheating. I think the fact she immediately jumped to cheating shows how bad their relationship is. She was waving the underwear around, and I recognized them because they had a floral print, but I just let this ridiculous fight go on. My wife came home after about 30 minutes and said they were hers. My wife asked if I didn't realize they were hers, and I accidentally laughed. My daughter burst into tears and won't talk to me. Her fiancé said we're fucked and left the house, but my wife thought it was funny.
AITA for making fun of a white girl for being poor because she was being racist? I'm of Asian descent, specifically one of the few Chinese students in my class, which has been quite entertaining lately. The girl in question has been racially bullying me since the lockdown began, when she sent me a message saying, "Did that bat taste good? Thanks a ton, you effing freak." I reported her to the school, and they simply dismissed it, claiming tensions were elevated, and her uncle having COVID was a valid excuse, or some nonsense like that. I received similar messages repeatedly from what seemed to be fake accounts, which I suspect were hers, and I just kept blocking them until she seemingly gave up as I was unresponsive. My school district decided to return to in-person classes, which I find incredibly foolish, but whatever. On the very second day of school, she approached me in the lunch line and said in a heavy Asian accent, "Are you munching on bat dumplings or dog noodles?" Others nearby laughed, and I'm sure I don't need to spell this out, but I felt utterly humiliated. Finally, it seemed like I had gotten her off my back for a bit, but she returned the moment school resumed, and I already knew the administration wouldn't support me. I don't know much about this girl, since I typically steer clear of her, but I did notice she had poor dental hygiene, lived in a mobile home, and was financially struggling. I'm embarrassed about lowering myself to her level, but I wanted to express how I truly felt just once, so I said, "You might want to worry less about what I'm eating and more about your diet, since you're the one who needs to learn how to brush your teeth in a trailer without running water. Don't try to get yourself carted off to a hospital when you can't pay for healthcare." Other students nearby told me I went overboard because it wasn't her fault she was poor, just like it was my fault for being Asian. She literally cried, while I didn't shed a tear every time she hurled a freaking racist slur at me. Ever since then, she has left me alone, which doesn't matter much since I plan on transferring anyway.
Este for not letting my miracle baby niece be my flower girl at my wedding, my 27F older brother and SIL, both mid-30s, just welcomed their first child a year and a half ago, after years of trying. After many failed attempts, Sil was told that she wouldn't be able to conceive due to a medical condition she has. They finally got pregnant. Since having my niece, the baby has been the center of attention at every family even we've had since she was born. Birthdays, weddings, family get-togethers, you name it. Now don't get me wrong, I love my niece. But it can get to be a little too much when my SEL goes on and on about how long they tried to conceive, complications they've had, miscarriages they've had, etc. Like a little too much info. Many family members have commented on how it's a little bit excessive, but no one has said anything because they don't want to sound like an AH. Anyway, I'm getting married in the spring, and my brother and SEL approached me last weekend about having my niece be the flower girl. Now, my fiancé, 35M, has 2 children, 10M and 6F, from his previous marriage. His son is one of his groomsmen, while his daughter had asked to be our flower girl when we told them the news that we were getting married a year ago, as it's something she always wanted to do. So of course we said yes. So I explained this to my SEL when she asked me about my niece. She asked if my stepdaughter can just carry my niece with her. I said I don't think she'd be comfortable with that considering she's 6. She then asked why I can't give that role to my niece and allow herself to carry my niece down as the flower girl. I said no, because I already promised my stepdaughter. She then started going off about how my lack of effort to incorporate my niece is disgusting to her. I should honor her in some way, since I know how long and hard they tried for my niece. Now, I may sound like an AH for this, but I kinda got fed up and snapped and said, "Incorporate my niece how? By the time the wedding comes around, she'll be 2 years old. The entire family already knows your story about how long and hard you guys tried for her. What more do you expect me to do to honor her?" She started crying and said that clearly, "I don't love my one and only niece, and I'm letting her down." I said, "Of course I love my niece, and obviously she's going to be involved in pictures and stuff. But I'm not going to let my stepdaughter down by giving my niece a role she's too young to remember anyway." Well, now Syl and my brother are pissed off with me for not letting my niece be Flower Girl, and are running around telling the rest of the family I don't love my niece. My mom had been trying to stay neutral, but thinks my stepdaughter would understand if I explained to her I need to give that role to my niece. I'm firm in my decision, though, and my fiancé is thankful that I didn't let his daughter down. AITA for not allowing my niece to be the Flower Girl.
AITA for wearing a wedding dress at a wedding. So my friend 20F and I, 19Mem, have been friends for a few years, and she recently got engaged. A week ago, I got a DM from her for a small costume party she was hosting as a celebration for her getting engaged. I asked if there was a theme, and she said there wasn't. I'm a cosplayer, so I had a lot of choices. I didn't want to rock up in an anime cosplay, so I thought it would be funny to go to an engagement party as the corpse bride. I arrived at her house yesterday, and everything seemed normal. A few people complimented my costume, and I was having a lot of fun. After 10 minutes, my friend's fiancé walked out in a black tuxedo and announced this was actually their wedding. Apparently, my friend saw a video of someone doing this and wanted to do the same. He asked us all to go to the backyard for the ceremony to begin. I went straight to him. I asked him if I should quickly go home and change my outfit and that I would get back before it started. He told me it was fine since I didn't know this was the wedding. I trusted him and followed everyone outside. They got married and everything seemed good. The reception was just in their house again, so everyone just walked back inside and picked up where they left off. I tried talking to my friend and celebrating with her, but she kept making excuses to not talk to me. I assumed it was just because she was tried from the big day and wanted some alone time. I didn't bother her after that, and the party soon ended. I got home, and half an hour passed when my phone started getting notifications. I checked, and it was my friend texting me. She was cussing me out and telling me how I ruined her wedding. I was really confused and asked what I did. That only made her more angry. She told me it was basic knowledge not to wear a wedding dress to a wedding. I reminded her I had no idea it was a wedding and that I asked her now husband if I should change, and he said it was fine. She didn't respond, but I got a text from her husband. He asked why I would tell her he said it was fine. I told him he said it was fine. Then he said how I should have changed anyways, and it's my fault that the two are now fighting over this. I've tried texting her that I was sorry, and if I had known, I wouldn't have done it. I woke up today and saw her and her husband have blocked me on everything. So, AITA for not changing out of the wedding dress when I found out it was actually a wedding? Edit. I am a guy. I cosplayed the character Emily from The Corpse Bride and had blue paint all over. I'm also Australian, and I've never heard a costume party meaning fancy. Everyone was dressed up in funny costumes. Update, https, www.reddit.com, user, Dan wants, death, comments, ULL42MB update, AITA for wearing a wedding dress to a TM source. Share. TM, medium, iOS, app, TM, name, iOS SMF, AITA for taking back the beer I bought for a party from which I was uninvited. I am a 19-year-old man, and the people calling me an asshole are 18-year-old men and women. On Thursday, a person I had a major crush on in high school, but who rejected me, messaged me out of the blue. She had never contacted me without my contacting her first, and at one point, I realized she had had me blocked on social media, and so I found it odd that she was suddenly being friendly. After sending a couple of greetings, questions about how I've been, she said that she was going to have some people over and wanted to know if I would get the beer. The drinking age where we are is 19, and she and the people who were going to chill were all 18. The liquor stores in my area all card. I thought it was silly that my being a month older meant I could buy liquor and they couldn't. And so I said I would love to go. She said, thanks. I'll pick you up at 7. 7 o'clock rolled around, and she texted me to say she was in front of my house. I went out dressed and ready to chill with some people, and she drove me to the liquor store. When we got there, I asked what beer she wanted me to get, and she told me to get Budweiser. I hid my disappointment as well as I could, but it was her party, so I went in and bought 2 cases of 24. I got back in the car and said, let's party, and she was eerily quiet. I noticed that she wasn't driving towards her neighborhood, but rather back towards mine. I thought she had moved or something, but didn't want to press the issue. When she turned down my street, I finally figured it out. She was being purposefully vague about the invitation because she wanted me to get the beer. But she wanted a way out when she told me I wasn't actually invited in the first place. She stopped in front of my house, leaned over, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Thanks," in her best voice. I deadpanned her and asked when she was going to tell me I wasn't invited. She feigned surprise and said that she never intended to invite me in the first place. I sat in silence for a long, awkward minute, picked up the beer, and walked towards my front door. She got out of her car and frantically tried to re-invite me to the party, but I told her that what she did was the most humiliating thing that ever happened to me. I opened my front door, slammed it a bit too hard, and came back to my room. Now I'm sitting here drinking absolutely unpalatable piss water, and I have text messages from all of her friends and her asking me why I'm being such a dick. I don't think I'm the asshole for reacting the way I did, but if you haven't figured it out, I'm not amazing socially, so I'm not sure. Am I here?
Astaye for demanding my sister pay rent, for living at home with my parents, and refusing to pay my rent until she does. Background: I graduated from college 4 years ago, live at home with my parents. My sister graduated 2 years ago and also lives with my parents. We both got jobs pretty much straight out of college. I pay my parents $800 a month in rent since my first paycheck. Last night, my parents were talking loudly about their financial problems in the living room. I overheard and I offered to help by paying more in rent. I was thinking $900, $1,000, since it covers utilities, phone, internet. My parents were grateful. Now, prior to this, I never asked my how much sister pays in rent. I always figured my parents charged us the same. So absent-mindedly, I asked a follow-up question. Me: how much is my sister paying for rent? My mom: nothing. A long-ass pause. Me: what do you mean she doesn't pay rent? My dad, visibly angry: your sister doesn't pay a fucking thing. My dad explained how my sister recently bought a brand new car and hasn't paid insurance on it, so my dad had to pay for it. She doesn't pay rent. She doesn't pay utilities, phone, anything. So for the past 2 years, she's been living rent-free while I've been paying my parents. So later that night, we had a family sit-down talk. My sister didn't want to pay rent, especially at how much I was paying. She offered $100. My parents suggested she pay $300. I pay $800, which my sister and I both rejected. The conversation ended with this: "Sister, F you. I'm trying to live my life." These were her exact words, which pissed me the fuck off to holy hell. So my sister storms off to her room, and it's now me, my parents, in the living room. I'm extremely upset at this because it's massively unfair. My mom is upset that everyone's angry at each other, and my dad's angry. My sister won't pay rent, and she won't move out, and both my parents don't want to police involved. So I say my part before leaving. Me: I'm not going to pay any more rent until she does. It's only fair, right? And if I do pay rent, I pay whatever she's being. My mom: what if she pays $300 and you pay $800? Me: no. My mom: but me, we really need the money. Me: that's too bad. I get up and go off to my room. So this morning, my dad comes in, tells me that I'm in a hole for not paying rent. That I should pay rent because it's the right thing to do and all this shit. I'm like, what the hell? Make my sister pay rent. My mom, who's listening in: you've seen her, she won't listen to us. Me: well, that's too bad. My mom, really angry: well, we wouldn't have this problem if you didn't try to make your sister pay rent. That was the last straw that blew it for me. I slammed the door on my parents. As I'm typing this, my parents are in the living room discussing how both their children are rotten, and shit was better back in the home country. Back in their day, when kids listened to their parents. Like, WTF? AITA for calling out my kid's future stepmom, for treating me like a surrogate. I 29F dated a guy, Joe, 30M, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex, Kim, 30F. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant, and now I'm at 24 weeks. I let him know, and he was ecstatic. Turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally. And he has always wanted to be a father. Getting back together was out of the question for both of us, so he's still with his girlfriend. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID-19, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim she had a mental breakdown about her infertility and wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house, and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to do a home birth, that I needed to formula feed so that they could have the babies half of the week, that she wanted one boy and one girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama since they would be calling me mommy. I shut her down and said I would make the best choices for my children and my body, and left. Kim continued to be overbearing and texting me every day about my eating habits, exercise habits, and bitching about how her job wouldn't let her take maternity leave. At the virtual genetics counseling appointment she attended instead of Joe, and took over the whole meeting, trying to talk about her family history, which wasn't relevant. When it came time for my 20-week level 2 scan, they allowed me one guest, and Joe suggested I take Kim instead of him, which I refused to do. Joe did end up coming, and he found out the gender, because I wanted to keep it a surprise for me so we could throw a gender reveal party. I put a pregnancy announcement on my social media, and then she put up an announcement saying they were expecting twins the non-traditional way, and how blessed she was. I was irritated, but I kept my mouth shut. Then she threw a gender reveal party and posted it on social media. I wasn't even invited. She also announced that she's having a baby shower. I commented on her posts and told her to stop treating me like a surrogate, that the kids weren't hers, and that Joe didn't have any claim or custody of the kids until they are born. I then called Joe and reiterated all of this, and stated that I would not be seeing either of them until we went to family court, and that my mother would be my birthing partner. He and Kim and some of her friends and family are saying I'm an asshole, and her mother even called and insisted I give her one of my babies, like, this is the parent trap? So AITA? Edit. I'm definitely getting a lawyer ASAP. Y'all have scared the shit out of me, but I'm happy you did. Update in part 2. AITA for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate. Update. I never considered that this could have happened on purpose. We used condoms because I do not react well to hormonal birth control, and I had to wait to get a non-hormonal IUD because of other medical issues. The Thursday I posted this, I went to the police and they stated that there was nothing they could do because a crime hadn't been committed. In my state, orders of protection are criminal or family, so I was able to get one against Joe. On Friday, I did get a lawyer, and they let me know in my state there was nothing I could do as far as custody before the babies are born. So I will be leaving my state soon to ensure that this isn't my baby's home state and I can't be charged with anything. However, someone sent this post to Kim and she came to my job, damaged my car, and broke a bunch of office windows. I work with kids, so she was arrested for not just the criminal damage and trespassing, but also child endangerment, so hopefully that works in my favor. Also, if Joe did it on purpose, I don't think Kim knew, because she was screaming at me about how I stole her life, and everything I had was supposed to be hers. Update. I have orders of protection against both Kim and Joe. I left the state anyway, and Joe and Kim started harassing me again because there's no legal jurisdiction when you leave the state. But I have enough evidence that I was able to press charges in my current state as well, and will be pursuing a restraining order here. As for making fun of a woman for being in her 40s and single, this whole saga started because my husband took my last name. A couple weeks ago, he got his workplace to change it, and his coworkers found out. About half of them think this is the funniest thing ever, and about half are deeply offended. Brenda is in the offended half and has made that clear. He and I are in a group chat with his coworkers where we organize carpooling during the pandemic. It is very helpful to us, so we can't leave the chat. Since he changed his name, my husband and I have been dealing with a lot of dumb jokes in the chat, which we have been mostly ignoring. Yesterday, Brenda, his coworker, and I got into a bit of a spat. I messaged the group asking if someone could take my husband home since I wouldn't be back from work until late and needed the car. One of his other coworkers agreed, and I thought that was that. Brenda messages the group saying, maybe if you spent less time at work and more time being a wife, your husband wouldn't come into work with dirty shirts. I took this as a bad joke initially. My husband is a rural mail carrier, so his shirts look like shirts worn by someone in 90-degree heat on dusty roads. I do wash them, but there's only so much to be done. Me. I could make cleaning those shirts my full-time job, and it wouldn't do much, lol, Brenda. You won't be married very long if you keep trying to be the man in the relationship. I'd be embarrassed as a wife if I did so little for my husband. Me. Well, I work more hours and pay the bills, so I think he can OxyClean his own shirts if it's so important. Brenda. Maybe you should learn to take proper care of your husband, or you'll find yourself divorced. Me. I'll let you know when I need relationship advice from someone who is 42 and single. Now, apparently, Brenda is going around and saying that I mocked her for being single in her 40s. I don't care if someone is single in their 40s, but I think it's absolute bullshit that she can call me a bad wife. But I can't point out she has no frame of reference. AITA Reddit, edit. People keep asking why I need to help arrange rides in the first place. When my husband is out on deliveries, he rarely has cell service, so if I find out late that I'm going to be home late, I need to be able to reach his coworkers directly. Multiple spouses are in the chat for the same reasons. Edit 2. People are saying that I've hurt my husband's feelings by saying I pay the bills. After reading the exchange, he sent me a text saying, "Sometimes I forget you're a hard little bitch who takes no prisoners. I'm so proud, LOL. He's fine. I asked him just now if my comment about the bills hurt him, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's so hard having a hot wife who makes good money. Really tough. Pray for me."
AITA for not giving my sister her wedding dress because she didn't invited my underage son. I, 40 Manios, have a sister, 30 AFF, who is getting married in a week. The groom proposed to her a year ago at a family dinner that left everyone speechless, but very happy for them as they are longtime companions. During this dinner, my sister asked my son, 17 Min, to make her wedding dress. My son has always loved design and fashion. He took technical courses in these areas and sewing, and even his friends keep asking for his clothes because they are so beautiful. He agreed, but said that he needed time and that he would need her opinion constantly. At first, my sister was very annoying. My son drew about 50 dress designs in a month, and she only liked one, which he continued with. He sewed it with great quality fabric, which I paid for, as I wanted to get involved in a certain way. For 5 months, he made several adjustments to suit her wishes, as she always complained about something. After a while, he arrived at the final model, and it was just amazing. My mother cried seeing my sister in the dress, and I confess that I almost got emotional too. The problem was that last week my son came to talk to me about the wedding invitation that had not arrived for him, but for other family members. I thought maybe he didn't need one, but it still felt weird. I messaged my sister raising this issue, and she replied that she didn't want any underage people at her wedding because there would be alcohol. I asked if she was going to make an exception for my son, but she cut me off and said no. There are no children in our family. My son is the only minor, so I didn't see any sense in this rule for family members. And to make matters worse, my son was very sad and cried because he spent months on this dress and couldn't go to the wedding. I was very upset and told my sister that she should look for another dress as soon as possible, as she would no longer wear the one my son made. She called and yelled at me, saying I was being unreasonable and that I couldn't do this. My mother called me saying I should deliver the dress and follow the rules, but I didn't and hung up on her. Because of this, the family is divided. Many agree with me and condemn my sister's actions, saying she could only make an exception, but another part says I'm unreasonable and I'm spoiling her big day. I don't think I'm being wrong, but just rational and paying her back in kind. So AITA, AITA, for not giving my sister her wedding dress because she didn't invited my underage son? Update. First, I would like to thank all the comments and suggestions. I really didn't expect my post to resonate so much. I talked to my son about the suggestions you guys gave me, and he agreed to sell the dress at market price. He calculated the price of everything, and the value was quite high. We sent the proposal to my sister, and she hated it. She said she couldn't afford it because it was too expensive, and it should be a gift because she is family. I responded by saying that it was too easy to say she was family to get a free dress, but not enough to include my son. She cried on the call and begged me not to ruin her day, but I didn't call because that to me was bullshit. At no point did she offer to just let my son go or apologize for it. And for anyone who said that maybe she's homophobic, I'm not sure, but I think who could be influencing her is her fiancé, who is a Christian and has never been close to my son. However, I don't care if he's doing it or not. If she wants to exclude my son from this event, then she will also be cutting ties with me. And for those who are asking for a photo of the dress, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but my son didn't agree, and unfortunately, I won't post it because of that. If anything else happens, I'll let you know. Until then, thank you all.
Esther for kicking my sile out after she threw away most of my single-use baby products and even formula. I'm 19F. I have a 3-week-old baby girl. I do still live with my parents, but since I pay rent equally, they say I can have just as much of a say in who comes and goes from the house as they do. I've never actually taken advantage of this rule until recently enough. I have a brother who's 26 and his wife is 24. They're crunchy parents to a 8-month-old. Basically what that is fucking stupid. They use reusable wipes, our nappies. Think formula is the epitome of evil, baby wearing. The list just goes on. I'm the complete opposite, pacifiers. Supplementing with formula due to low supply, disposable wipes and nappies. They are completely against the products I use and often give me things like Sile's breast milk and bags. disposable nappies their LO has grown out of, etc. I've used some, but it's not really my cup of tea. On Monday night, my bother and SIL were minding my baby for me since it was my birthday, and my baby's father, not together very close friends and co-parents, took me to get some dinner in one of my favorite fast food places. It was great and really relaxing. When I got home that evening, my Sael said that she did some cleaning and threw out anything I don't need. This immediately gave me red flags, but they were in a hurry to get out the door and left almost immediately. When I went into the nursery, every disposable nappy and wipe pack was gone and replaced with some reusable cloth ones. Same with my formula. There was 8 tubs, and all of it was gone. I'm not able to replace them at the moment, and solely breastfeeding isn't sustainable for us. I was extremely angry, and I just turned my phone off to avoid being mean to my Sael. She and my brother came over yesterday to collect something they forgot, and that was when I confronted her. I told her she has to replace everything she dumped. When she said she can't afford to, I said, fine. Just get out and don't come back until I've been reimbursed, or everything is replaced with the original items. My brother thinks I'm being a massive asshole, and he's on his wife's side. Our parents think I'm being completely reasonable here, but they think telling her essentially not to come back is taking it too far. AITA, boosté for moving my son into a rental apartment after finding out that his dad's been canceling his job applications. My son Aiden, 23, moved back in with us upon graduating college as my husband wanted. My husband's original plan was to have Aiden live with us for free, but stay home and help with his disabled younger brother, 16. Aiden started complaining about needing money and wanted to find a job. My husband was against this and even offered to double his allowance, but Aiden was growing tired of staying at home. So he began looking for jobs here and there for over a year, but none of his job applications came through. He'd just apply and they never get back to him. We were confused by this till recently. I found out that my husband was behind all the job applications being canceled. He'd wait till Aiden applies, then he proceeds to cancel the application by impersonating him and using his email. I blew up at him for this, but his justification is that he's just trying to make sure that our younger son is cared for by Aiden, and said that Aiden has been big help, and him getting a job will affect his care for his brother. I went ahead and rented an apartment for Aiden, and told him to stay there till he finds a job and starts paying for it himself. Aiden was hurt upon knowing what his dad did. My husband was livid when he found out. He called me unhinged and said that I was separating the boys and teaching Aiden to become selfish and care more about a job than family. He also said it was a huge decision for me to rent an apartment without even running it with him. He's been giving me hell about it and is calling me a terrible mother for encouraging Aiden to be selfish and self-centered. He said I needed to see and understand why he did what he did. Edit few things to mention. 1. My husband says that since he and I have health issues, then we could use Aiden's help. 2. When I suggested outside help, my husband refused, saying he won't ask anything from anybody, and that his son is his problem and nobody else's. 3. I used money from our joint account to pay for the rental apartment. My husband said it was wrong, and that it was a major waste of money since we deal with medical bills consistently.
AITA for telling my family that if they gift us money for our wedding, there will be no strings attached, or we will politely decline it. I effing hate wedding culture. It's bullshit. My fiancé and I thought we would escape the BS and money by having a small thing. Well, family started trying to throw money at us to make it bigger and more spectacular. We were surprised, but it was a good surprise. Then the demands started coming out. They wanted this, they wanted that. They wanted this person to come. These colors, dresses can't do this. This person has to be flower girl. This person has to be a groomsman, etc., etc. Suddenly, it didn't feel like our wedding, but an excuse for our families to have a family reunion. We put our foot down and said, "Thank you all for your kindness and generosity when it comes to our wedding." Unfortunately, it looks like we may not have been on the same page as the rest of you. When we were offered money for this wedding, we did not realize it came with strings attached. With so many requests and so many demands from people we didn't expect would think they had a say in our wedding, we have decided to give everyone their money back. Our understanding of what a gift is must be very different. If you would like to give us money without strings attached or requests or demands, we will gracefully accept it. But if you believe a gift should come with stipulations, we must regretfully and politely decline. This has caused an epic poop storm, such to the point where I have people saying they will never come to our wedding. Honestly, not the worst thing in the world. That we are spoiled, we're a-holes, etc., etc., etc. My parents are rather upset about it, but hers, who never made any demands and gave us a small cash gift, said we did the right thing. We are halfway to canceling the whole party and just absconding into the wilderness to do the wedding the way we want. AITA, are we?
AITA for my response to my sister's boyfriend's brutal honesty. My F-35 sister, F-27, started dating one of those brutally honest guys a few months ago. He can be quite rude and make backhanded comments about me and the family sometimes, which is bothersome. But my sister says he's not malicious, but is just the brutally honest time, and we should get used to it. I visited my parents' house to celebrate my sister's birthday, and my husband couldn't come with me because he was busy. After the party, we all sat down for dinner, and my sister's boyfriend said it was weird that my husband and I don't have kids, despite being married for 6 years now. I was shocked that he brought this up, but I gave a short answer, stating that it's because of infertility issues. He asked on which side, and I didn't want to answer, but my sister said it's on my side. I got uncomfortable as he looked at me for a second and said that maybe not having kids now is a good thing because he thought women over 30 might produce defective babies due to age. I told him it was none of his business, but he said that he was just giving his honest opinion, and that's all. I, in return, told him while maintaining eye contact, "Trust me, if I wanted an asshole's opinion, I would have farted." Literally everyone at the table bursted into laughter, and my sister and her boyfriend were stunned. A few seconds later, her boyfriend excused himself out, and my sister followed, then sent me a text after they left, saying I was mean and disrespectful towards her boyfriend, and insulted him maliciously, just because he stated his honest opinion. She also said I ruined her birthday by being petty, and making her boyfriend the joke of the night in front of the family. I didn't respond, but she demanded an apology via mail as soon as possible. Mom agreed that I shouldn't have said what I said, and should have just ignored him knowing how he is. I think AITA, but I'm not sure.
AITA, because I refuse to go and visit my special needs stepsister in hospital even though she's very sick. I low-key hate her. I'm 15 years old. I have a stepsister who is a couple years older than me, and she is really seriously disabled. I'm not sure what's wrong with her because no one ever wants to discuss it with me, but she's nonverbal, breaks her bones a lot, and has severe epilepsy, and will have many fitting episodes. She also doesn't understand stuff. That's probably the easiest way to put it. She's just a human body with nothing inside. She's my stepmom's daughter. My stepmom married my dad 3 years ago, and they dated only for a year before that. I don't know my stepmom very well, and I don't really get on with her. We are respectful to each other, but I'm basically living with strangers because she's so busy with her daughter and my dad. I am always on my own, and I used to hate it, but I'm used to it now. Ever since they moved in to live with us, life changed drastically for me, because all the care now revolves around my stepsister. That's fine, I get it, but both my stepmom and my dad ask me to do things for my stepsister that I don't want to do, and I resent doing. Stuff like staying home when I want to go to the mall with my friends. They're disappointed that I don't get her anything for her birthday, with my very limited funds, etc. My own mom passed away when I was small, so I can't go and stay anywhere else. And all in all, I'm just a lot more angry than I used to be because they seem really disappointed whenever I say I don't want to do anything for her. Even stuff like feeding her, like I don't want to sit there feeding her banana pudding and wiping her drool. I didn't ask for this. Anyway, she recently fell a few days ago and had a seizure for 8 minutes. She was taken to hospital and the doctors want to keep her in and look after her. I don't want to go and visit her. I remember seeing my mom in hospital before she died, and I just hate hospitals. And I sort of hate my stepsister, and I just don't want to go and visit someone who doesn't even know I'm there. My stepmom is really upset with me, and so is my dad. They haven't yelled at me or anything, but they are both being super cold towards me because I don't want to visit. My grandma who lives in Canada called me up out the blue and told me it was okay, and I don't need to force myself to go to the hospital, so I'm assuming my dad has told her I'm refusing to go. He keeps pleading with me, but I keep telling him I'm not doing it. I told him hospitals remind me of mom, and he got even more upset and said my stepsister might die and I need to stop being so selfish towards my stepmom. I just want to know what Reddit thinks, because half my friends think I should go, and the other half think I'm justified in saying no.
Is Tori yay for barring my husband from the bedroom tonight? So here is the situation. Me, nurse, working 50-ish hours a week in pediatric ICU. Cry at least once a week because that shit is hard. My salary pays our bills. All of them. Husband, 25 more. Has a degree but isn't looking for a job. Works 2 days a week at the grocery store. Spends most of his time playing Lowell. BTW, all events here are in accordance with COVID legislation. Today was supposed to be a good day. I had been begging my husband to swap his Saturday shift to literally anything else so that we could have days off together. We haven't had a weekend together since our wedding, 18 mo ago. Today was supposed to be our first Saturday off together. We were going to go to an animal sanctuary. He starts the day by going to breakfast with his best mate, leaving before I even wake up. I wake up around 9 and realize he is not home. Call. He says he's helping his mate set up some lights and that the weather is too rainy for the animal sanctuary anyway. He gets home at 1-ish, lies around, plays some video games, promising we would cook dinner together tonight. Leaves again at 5 to help the same mate with something else. I go grocery shopping. I don't drive because of medical issues, but I walk there and back in the rain. I get home, realize I've left my keys inside, call husband, knowing he's 5 min away. He says he will leave in a minute. I sit in the rain and the cold, southern hemisphere. 45 min later, I call again. He hasn't left yet. He finally agrees to come and let me in the house, so he drives up, presses the clicker to let me in the garage, and leaves again. At 10, I call to see where he is. His friend answers. Says he is driving out to do something an hour away. It's 10:30. I am going to bed. I have sent him a TXT that I am upset and don't want to speak to him tonight, and would rather he left me alone. As far as I am concerned, if he can't value me more than his best mate on the first day off, he and I have shared in a year and a half, he can go sleep in his bed instead. BTW, his friend doesn't work, so they hang out all the time when I am at work. He's going to be upset, and he is going to tell his mate, and his mate is going to tell him I'm being a bitch. AITA adding some info. I am 26. We weren't always like this. I don't know what changed. I'm fairly confident he's not having an affair, and I fully intend on talking this through, but at a time that isn't 4 a.m. Also the crying. Sick babies sometimes make me sad, and I love all my patients. That's why I cry. And I don't mean hours of sobbing. I mean stepping into a supply closet to take a moment before getting back to work. Also, thank you for your kindness. I was expecting maybe 5 replies. I am trying to respond as much as I can, but there are a lot of you.
AITA for not waking up my girlfriend for her exam after I overheard her calling me a little bitch. My girlfriend has online summer courses, and she had an exam for one of them this morning. I usually wake her up for pretty much everything because she sleeps through her phone alarm, no matter how long it buzzes or how many she sets. She has joked that I'm her butler before, and within the context of a relationship it's okay, so I didn't mind. Obviously, I want to love my partner and try make her life easy. However, last night she was chatting with her friends, and she thought I couldn't hear. She was bragging that I'm her little bitch, and I do everything for her when she tells me to, etc. It really hurt my feelings because they were making comments like, good, put him in his place, and she was agreeing. She specifically said, yeah, I'm not worried about tomorrow because the bitch will make sure I'm up and he'll probably have breakfast ready for me too. I went to bed pretty hurt by it, and come morning I didn't bother to wake her up when her alarm started to go. She usually only gets up when someone physically shakes her, but I let her turn off her alarm and she slipped back into sleep, and I turned around and went back to sleep too. When she woke up, she was yelling at me saying, I'm an asshole, and I've cost her exam, and I'm a piece of shit for what I did. Edit. Sorry for not responding sooner. I wrote this up on my break at work, and now I have to get back to it. Can't have my phone, work with food. I wasn't expecting this many replies so fast. I think we're breaking up. I told her this morning after she called me a bitch for being upset being called a bitch. LOL, but she says she's not done with me. I'm just trying to get through today's shift and then deal with stuff later. I'll try and get back as I can. We've been together a year and it was my first real relationship, but I'm tired of her not acknowledging how shitty she made me feel and still calling me a bitch. That word is really making me feel shit and small. AITA? I didn't attend my son's wedding. I instead spent the evening with his ex-wife. Quick backstory. After graduating high school, my son moved 3 states away for college. At 19, he married a girl he met. I tried convincing him to wait because I personally felt he was too immature. They both dropped out and moved back here to his hometown. At 20, they had their first child, a beautiful little girl. 16 months later, my DIL gave birth to their second child, a little boy. After the first baby, my wife and I noticed our DIL wasn't happy. We both thought it was PPD related. Just after the second arrived, my son and his wife separated. She would bring the kids over for a visit. It was then she began unloading on us. I know there's 2 sides to every story, but considering I know my son, I believed her. I sat my son down numerous times to speak with him regarding his marriage. He refused to take responsibility, blamed her for everything even when I directly pointed out where he was the sole problem. They got into counseling. For a year things were okay on the surface. Our DIL filed for divorce. My son 3 days later was on Facebook announcing his new girlfriend. A month later, they were engaged. My son had forced his then-wife to become a permanent SAHM at the birth of their first child. She, of course, had no other family or friends here. She knew no one aside from us. She had nowhere to go with 2 small children. Unbeknownst to our son, my wife and I helped her financially and got her an apartment. Before the divorce was even finalized, we received a wedding invitation. I made it clear to my son I would not be attending and they would not have my blessing. His mother told him she would see to it that I would attend. I stayed consistent in my decision. I also asked him not to bring his fiancée around our house out of respect for the mother of his children. The wedding happened on Feb 11. The night before, my wife gave me the finial push. I did not attend. Our daughter also did not attend for the same reasons. My wife picked up our grandkids, got them dressed, and attended the wedding. My daughter and I decided to spend the evening with his ex. I couldn't imagine her sitting alone while her kids attended their father's wedding. She was taken aback that I didn't end up attending his wedding. We took her out to distract her mind. I just wanted her to know she'll always be considered family to us. My daughter also made a joke they can drop the in-law status and just be sisters now. She was very tearfully grateful. I realized just how badly she needed our support, and specifically on that night. The next morning, my son called to tell me how much of a horrible father I am for not attending his wedding. Few days later, he caught wind that I spent the wedding evening with his ex. He said that was the ultimate form of betrayal, and further, myself and his sister would have to earn an relationship with him on his terms only. AITA. I didn't attend my son's wedding. I instead spent the evening with his ex-wife. Update. First, I'd like to sincerely thank each and every one of you for your support, encouragement, and all the awards. I know without a doubt I did the right thing. I even feel differently now. His mother should not have attended either, but we can't go back and undo that. So my son saw the post. I had sent my daughter the link yesterday so she could read the comments. This morning she texts me at work, "Dad, you went viral." LOL. But anyways, he sent screenshots of the post and all my comments to his mom. He also told her, "He's dead to me now. Time will tell if he means that. I'm sure he'll see this update too. For that reason, I'm positively certain the second he needs another cash loan, I won't be dead anymore." His mom told him, "Your children have to be our #1 priority. They're not just some disposable items you can leave behind when one chapter of your life closes." Maybe one day he'll understand this.
Ustai for getting upset with my husband after he told me nothing will change while I am pregnant. Throwaway account. So me, 26F, and my husband, 28M, who I'll call Jake for this story, have been together for 5 years and married for 3. We have recently started trying for a baby as we both felt like that was the next step in our life together. And 3 weeks ago, I got a positive test back. We were really, really happy and told our families. And now my mom and Mill want to throw a big baby shower for us. It was just super good news all around. 2 nights ago, Jake reminded me to check that all the lights were off before bed. He can be lazy, so I usually handle turning off the lights. I wasn't feeling very well and asked if he could just do it since he wasn't doing anything and was literally standing by the door. He then tells me, "No, this is what is expected of you every night." I was a little hurt, but I didn't want to fight with him, so I just did it. When I came back, Jake goes on this very long and unprovoked rant saying things like, "Just because you are pregnant does not mean anything will change," and "You are still expected to cook, clean, and do all the chores every day, because how can you be expected to be a mother if you can't handle a little work?" He wasn't yelling or anything. He was talking to me quietly like a was 2 inches tall. I was shocked because I had never heard him say anything like this. The rant went on for about 30 minutes before I interjected and asked, "Well, what do you plan on doing to help me with all of this?" He then got extremely defensive, saying he works his ass off at his job to provide for me and what is going to be our future children. For context, I don't work ATM. My job was not paying enough to justify me going, so I am a full-time college student. He ended by saying that it doesn't matter how I feel physically or mentally. It is a mother's job to push through, and if he helped and babied me, I wouldn't be a good mother. I got extremely upset and started yelling, and I said that I wish I would have known this is how you felt before I got pregnant with your baby. There was a moment of silence before he started crying, and he left for the night to stay at his mother's house. He hasn't been back yet, and my MIL and SIL have called me, berating me and saying I broke Jake's heart with what I said, and I need to apologize immediately. And until I do, he isn't coming home. I don't know how to feel. So AITA for yelling at my husband after he said he isn't helping me with anything during the pregnancy because it's a mother's job to deal with it. Edit. I told my Milanessil what he said, which I did. They basically said I was being sensitive, and all he meant was pregnancy isn't an excuse to be lazy. He meant no harm. Okay. I am getting some things together, and I'm going to be headed to my mom and dad's house. My mom is furious with him and doesn't want me apologizing to him or talking to him without the situation either being recorded or having a witness. Regardless, I am okay and will be okay.
AITA. If I ask my pregnant wife to move out because she and her best friend decided to test my loyalty, my wife is pregnant with our daughter. Initially, we were really happy and excited about it. But then, she starts acting like a nut job. She gets angry and irritated for small things, insults me when she doesn't like the food I make, starts acting insecure, and accuses me of losing attraction for her. For example, she wanted to eat chicken sandwiches for dinner last week. Well, I made chicken sandwiches. So she eats all the sandwiches, leaves me nothing, and told me that they tasted like shit. I wasn't pissed because she left me nothing. But if she didn't like them, why did she have to eat everything? When I asked her this, she told me that she was hungry. Okay, fine. She does this every time. Eats everything I make and calls it shit. I don't argue with her because I work for more than 80 hours a week and I really want to have some peace when I'm home. So yesterday, a random girl starts at flirting with me after the gym and asked me if I wanted to meet up with her for some drinks. I rejected her and told her that I was married. And when I got home, my wife started to hug me and apologize. When I asked her what happened, she told me that her best friend suggested a test for my loyalty. So they asked a mutual friend to flirt with me and asked me out. And I passed. Yay! I'm really pissed. I'm done with her antics. Wibte, if I ask her to move out, edit. I don't live in the USA. Please don't discuss legalities based on the laws there.
Us A for telling my boyfriend's friends I make twice what he does. When they called me a gold digger and he didn't defend me. I'm in a relationship with a guy who also works in tech. He makes $68K and I make $130K. I am a mechanical engineer at a robotics startup. He works at a more stable job doing programming at a large company. He brought me to meet his friends at a party, and they asked me about myself. His friends mostly work in tech, too, and talked about themselves in terms of their jobs. I told them, I'm a hiker, I do archery, I love road trips and camping and riding dirt bikes, etc. Basically talking about my hobbies, because work is just a way to get paid to do the shit I love. It's not how I define myself, and it doesn't come to mind when someone wants me to tell them about myself. One of his friends asked about work, and I said, oh gosh, I don't want to talk about work at a party. Spent my whole day sweating my ass off in 95-degree heat, trying to replace this busted-ass motor just to find the replacement part was also fucked. I wasn't lying or trying to downplay that I have a good job. That really is how I spent my day. And I wasn't in the mood to talk shop at a party. Some other conversations came up casually that probably also made me seem poorer, like me saying that car dealership repairs were a ripoff, and telling my boyfriend that my childhood neighbor's trailer caught on fire, and I was going to visit and help her out. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was literally just talking about my life, but I guess I gave the impression I was poorer. It got later in the night. Everyone was getting drunker, and some of his friends, not close ones though, were making jokes about me growing up in a trailer and being a gold digger, and being ready to jump to a richer guy. Really misogynistic shit, honestly, since they don't even know me, and seem to just assume all girls are good diggers. He didn't say anything. He later said it was because he'd smoked weed and gets quiet, and has trouble carrying on a quick conversation when he's high. But regardless, I felt hurt. He didn't say anything. I got irritated with his friends and asked, now why the hell would you say that when I make twice what he does? His friends went quiet for a second, and I continued saying, there ain't no gold to dig here, not with him or anyone at this party. So do y'all think I'm cheap, or do y'all think I'm stupid? My boyfriend wanted to leave the party shortly after, and he was pretty upset with me for telling everyone I make twice what he does. I said I would have held my tongue if he'd checked his friends himself. But he didn't say anything, so I wasn't about to let them talk to me like that. He said it was humiliating, and now everyone thinks I'm a bitch, and I flippantly said, at least they know I'm a rich bitch. He was angry I embarrassed him when I spoke up. I was angry I had to say anything at all, because his friends were talking shit, so it should be on him to check them. Stuff is still tense. AITA for explaining why I'm not a gold digger.
AITA for telling my wife's friend she is too old and ugly after she repeatedly asked my 19-year-old son to take off his shirt. He was getting uncomfortable. My family had a small get-together at my house. One of my wife's friends was over. She is unmarried. I think she is 45, 47. We aren't too close to her since she lives pretty far away. She was over our house and she started complimenting my son. My son is 19. It starts off innocent, but as time goes on, it gets more and more crossing the line. When we were out on my deck, she starts telling my son to take his shirt off. What's the point of going to the gym if no one will see it? My son is visibly uncomfortable and tries to shut her down. She repeatedly is asking and is getting more aggressive with it. I interject and I am like, "Hey, Kathy, I think you are a bit too old and ugly for my son." This got her upset really quickly, and she excuses herself to the bathroom and starts crying. My wife goes to comfort her, and then later she leaves. At the end of it, my wife is super angry with me for saying that I should have said, "Hey, Kathy looks like you had too much to drink or something else." I told my wife that Kathy, BTW, this is not her real name, works a corporate job, she has had training on this, and that she knows better. And our son was uncomfortable. He is 18 plus, but he doesn't know how to deal with an adult, let alone someone saying that in our house. I told my wife flat out that if I was to invite a guy friend and he was to ask to see our daughter in a bikini, my wife would have called the police. She says it's different. I tell her that I was way kinder to Kathy than I would have been had a guy said something like that to our daughter. And I told my wife that Kathy needs to apologize to my son before she can ever come into our house again. Overall, I think I was fair. If Kathy just said it once, and I said that I think I would be the asshole. But the fact she kept repeating it, that's why I said it. And I wanted her to get the message that yes, I am upset. That's why I included the ugly part. AITA. For purposely stopping my classmate from winning an award and subsequently making her cry, this issue is honestly making me frustrated. Almost everyone is saying I am in the wrong, people are talking behind my back, and I genuinely don't know if what I did was correct or not. I just feel so lost. Please do help. I am 17, suffered a major accident while cycling when I was 13. I have 2 really deep, long facial scars. I have been bullied really bad because of it. I am tall, ugly, and intimidating as per most girls. People make fun of other people by saying things like, "Why don't you just hook up with you throw away for K-19? I'm honestly used to it. Those people didn't matter to me anyway. But there is this girl I had known since middle school. Let's call her back, I guess. Sorry, I honestly don't know how this works. I had a really, really big crush on her till a few days ago. I thought she was genuinely sweet and amazing. My family is incredibly supportive, so they urged me to ask her out. I can play a guitar, so I made this whole song for her. I went to the neighboring city to get her favorite chocolate and stuff like that. This was the first time I felt like really going and asking someone out in my life, and I felt that regardless of what I do, she shall see me for who I am, and at least accept me as a friend. I was over the moon when she ended up accepting. We went to a fancy restaurant, had a fun time together, and walked for 30 minutes. She was really sweet to me. The next week or so was honestly heaven. People started noticing me. Even her friends seemed friendly with me. I honestly cried every day because I felt so fortunate to get so much love. It all broke down when a friend of hers who was on Instagram and followed Beck sent screenshots to me. I honestly felt betrayed and disgusted. She had posts saying, fulfilled his lifelong wish by being his Valentine's, making his day by finally helping him interact with my friends. He is ugly, but beautiful people accept ugly people. Ugly people matter, etc. Beck's friend then explained me that she apparently wanted a good social media image and had thus asked all her friends to be kind to me and tolerate me till the first week of March, and then distance themselves from me. She apparently wanted to win some stupid positive role model award for her college application because she was lagging behind in community service. And thought playing with my feelings for a few days wouldn't hurt. And apparently since I was ugly, she was the kind one to give me attention anyway. I was in tears and honestly felt disgusted. My blood was boiling. I researched about this award, found a Facebook page about it online. I went to the authorities to confirm if her name was on the nominations list, and then had my friends at work and family as alibi. She is apparently crying a lot because she received a message from the committee saying her nomination was withdrawn. I am now even more ostracized in school, but honestly I have no remorse whatsoever and feel far more satisfied.
AITA for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? I, F17, still live at home. My sister, 28, is married and has 2 kids, 5'3". Whenever she comes over to visit my parents and her stick me with the kids, this wouldn't be a problem except she doesn't visit for an evening. She will come for a week, and for that week, I'm an unpaid nanny. If we go out to a restaurant, I have to entertain them because my mom needs to talk to my sister and Bill. You get the picture. My parents decided that since this was my last summer before I became an adult, we would be going to Disneyland to celebrate my graduation. I asked who was going, and they said it was just the 3 of us. But when we got to the airport, my sister and her family were there. Strangely enough, they were also going to Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport. I put it in my sock. When we got to the international security, I couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I had to Uber home and I missed my flight. Oh well, I get to stay home by myself for a week of peace and quiet. My parents were very mad at me for losing my passport. The money they spent on my flight and entrance was wasted. Darn. My mom and sister have both been posting about how hard it is to be at Disneyland with two little ones. They both posted that I ruined the vacation by being so thoughtless. My dad says he knows why I did and he understands. But he says I should have let him know so he didn't waste money. He said he would have gone along with my ruse. I feel bad about wasting money, but I have been to Disneyland before. And I will go again later by myself or with friends.
AITA for telling my friend her parents bought her house, not her. The title sounds bad, but hear me out. Backstory. I, F28, have a friend, F28, who purchased a house late last year. It's an awesome 2-story townhouse, and I've been over there plenty of times to help out with moving, decorating, and for hanging out. As mentioned in the title, her parents purchased the house for her and her partner. I truly have no issue with this as the housing market is terrible for buyers, so more power to them for being homeowners. I recently, unfortunately, inherited my parents' house, which is 3-bedroom, out in the sticks. The issue, we went appliance shopping, because most of the stuff in the house was 10-15 years old. We were standing with an employee who I had asked to recommend some smaller items, like toasters and kettles, when the employee asked if I was moving out as general chit-chat. I told him I was moving, and he asked whether I bought or rented. I told him bought, because it was just easier and less awkward than telling him I inherited the house. He told me that was cool, and began talking about the toasters again when my friend cut in that I had inherited my house, not purchased it. The employee went quiet, and I gave her a "what was that" face. I was taken aback. She continued on saying, "Yeah, I purchased my house." I asked, "Does it really matter? I'm here to buy some kitchen appliances, not tell this guy my personal issues." She grinned and said, "It's just for the record," which made me more confused and annoyed. You can probably see where this is going. I replied, "Oh, okay then. If it's just for the record, your parents purchased your house for you." The employee quickly retreated, and she walked outside of the shop. I caught up with her, and she said I was a massive asshole for pointing out she couldn't afford to own without her parents' help. I returned with a very similar, "My parents also helped me with getting a house too, just in a really terrible way." My partner agrees with me, saying that she's the one that opened that door, but our other friends are split almost 50-50. Edit. Holy hell, this blew up. Sorry I wasn't clear with my friends being 50-50. Half think I'm NTA and the others think we're both assholes and I shouldn't have escalated the problem. As for how I reacted to my husband's ex-wife's girlfriend buzzing my stepson's hair, this is a throwaway, and all names have been changed. To explain the relationships here, I, 30YF, married my husband, Alex, 31M, about a year ago, but we've been together for 4 years. He was previously married, and after they had agreed to divorce, she told him she was pregnant. We'll call his ex Kate, 30FF. Kate had been cheating on Alex with Jess, 32F, for about a year. I had known Alex for years through mutual friends, and I met his son when he was 6 months old. So present day, Kate and Jess are together still, but very hot and cold. I went to pick up my stepson from school. Jess had dropped him off, and he seemed quiet and sad. I asked him what was wrong, and he said he was sad because he had no hair. He has beautiful curly hair. He told us he wanted to grow out into a mullet. At that time, my husband cleared it with his mom, that they were both okay with that, and she agreed to have me trim it as needed, like around his ears. He took his hat off and it was buzzed down to his scalp. I was shocked, but just said, "Well, I think you look very handsome, but I thought you wanted to grow it out. Why did you cut it?" Apparently Jess was going to trim it and forgot to put a guard on when she realized that it was too late and she had to buzz it. When we got home, I called Kate. She didn't know how bad the haircut was and was tied up at a work event. She suggested I make sure I get the whole story on what happened, so with her permission, I went right to Jess after I called my husband, who was driving home from a couple hours away, and explained what was going on. So I called Jess, asked to verify what he said, and tell her how upset he was. She said that is exactly what happened, but didn't see why it was such a big deal. She kept saying I'm overreacting, and it's just hair. So I tried to explain that as a kid, there's so much he doesn't get a say in, so it was a big deal to him. I told her she should never go near his head with clippers again. She came back with, "Well, you're not his mom." And when I reminded her she wasn't either, she said, "I'm a hell of a lot closer than you. I've been there since day one Frosser." To which I said, "Yeah, because you were an affair partner. Don't cut his hair again." and hung up. I called my husband back to explain everything and calm down. He had been on the phone with Kate discussing things as well, and I texted Kate to give an overview and say I was sorry if I overreacted. It's the next day, and Jess is trying to tell Kate I shouldn't be allowed to cut his hair if she can't. And I need to get my parenting privileges taken away. I think that's crazy. And just to clarify my role as a step-parent, Kate and my husband meet twice a year alone to discuss parenting things. And at the last one, Kate said she is comfortable with seeing me as a parent and is ready to include me in the meetings going forward. But AITA for being upset with Jess for not only buzzing his hair but for how she reacted trying to minimize it? Star. If I refuse to let my son wear the shirt his dad sent him, I'm a single mom to a 5-year-old boy. His dad only met him once when he was about 2 years old. Now at 5, he doesn't have anything to do with him. He asks for pictures of him once in a while and sends him gifts for Christmas and his birthday. But other than that, he doesn't have anything to do with him. He sent me clothes for him, and on one of the shirts it says something like Daddy's Little Man, which I refuse to let him wear because he's not really in his life and only has met him once. He's in the Air Force and is in a different state, but if he really wanted to and cared enough about him, he would ask to FaceTime him and talk to him on the phone. AITA. If I refuse to let my son wear that shirt.
AITA for refusing to walk 1H to get sunscreen? My wife is pregnant and currently in the 2nd trimester. She is very careful about what she puts in her body. She never drank or did drugs, but now all her food needs to be organic. Her eggs are free range, which is very expensive now. We both make a good living so we can afford it, but I still cringe at the grocery bill. I wasn't allowed to drink for 6 months when we tried for a baby to improve the sperm quality. Honestly, she is very controlling about what went into my body when we were trying, because she read studies on how bad certain things are for men's sperm. She also cut out a lot of creams and stuff she says is dangerous for the baby. We were on vacation in Hawaii and came back a week ago, and she is still pissed. I packed the big tub of sunscreen, and she didn't say anything about needing a different sunscreen. When we got there, she complained that I brought the chemical sunscreen, and for pregnancy I need to go buy physical sunscreen or something. She showed me a pic of what she wants, but the store is 30 minutes away, one way. So I would have to walk 1H, so go get sunscreen. Or get an Uber, which would have cost nearly $90 for a tub of sunscreen. We couldn't find a Postmates option. I told her the sunscreen we have is fine for now, and she can just use the sunscreen we have until our tour in 2 days. The tour drops us off at the location where she would be able to get the sunscreen. But she yelled at me, calling me lazy when she is doing everything to make sure the baby is healthy. I got annoyed and left for the day at the beach. I figured she could join me with the sunscreen we have, but she covered herself and went to the store to get it. She refused to talk to me the entire week we were there and still gives me the cold shoulder now that it's been a week since we got back. This ruined our vacation. ATA for refusing to walk an hour on a whim to get sunscreen she wanted. AITA for taking my dad home after missing a train instead of waiting for the next one. My dad, 60 meters, my sister, 22F, and I, 20 meter, were supposed to take a train downtown for a car show. I was the one who arranged and paid for everything since I thought it would be good family time. I told him to be ready at 12:15 p.m. so that we would have enough time to drive to the station and park before the train arrives at 1:04. The drive is about 25 minutes, so my thinking was that I would have 49 minutes to drive to the station and figure out parking and to get to our terminal. I had never been to this station, so just wanted to have extra time in case things go wrong. He said he would come out to the car at 12:15. My sister and I got to his house at 12:10 and waited. He didn't come out until 12:31. I told him we would be late, but he said we were fine since it was only a 25-minute drive. We arrived at the station at 12:55. Here's where the first problem came up. We could only find reserved parking spots. We parked in a reserved spot so that I could get out of the car and go find somebody to ask where the regular lot was. Turns out nobody is in the customer support area as it's a holiday. At this point, it's Juan Guaos. Then, my dad saw a security officer in the lot and told me to go ask him where the regular lot was. He told me it was at the other side of the road. So, I park up in the regular lot, run back to the boarding area where my dad and sister was waiting. The doors of the train literally closed as I was about 20 meters from the train. My dad and sister didn't board as they saw I couldn't make it. I was upset, but willing to let it go as there was another train coming in an hour. Then everything got heated. My dad got mad at me for missing the train because I should have known where to park instead of wasting time in the reserved lot looking for the regular lot. Now, I was mad. I told him that the reason I wanted to come earlier was because I didn't know the station and where everything was, and since he was late, we didn't have enough time. He said I should have researched the parking lot before coming. We got into an argument, which eventually got very bad. At this point, I didn't even want to go to the car show as I was so pissed at him for blaming me. I told him that I would wait in the car and that he and my sister could go to the show and I'll pick them up when they come back. He called me selfish, as he and my sister got ready for this family outing just for me, and that he wanted me to come on the next train, as we already made the drive over to the station. I told him no, because I was in tears from the argument and wasn't in the mood to spend an entire day with him after he said terrible things to me for something he did. Eventually, he got in the truck and we headed home. He told me to never speak to him again, as I was selfish and wasted his time. He will hold this grudge for at least a month. AITA for taking him home instead of going on the next train after he was late and blamed it on me.
AITA for telling my friend to go to a food bank. I have a friend, let's call her Sally, who has been going through some tough times. Sally split from her boyfriend last year when she caught him cheating. They had been together for over 2 decades, and he was very wealthy. Sally was a homemaker while they were together, and when they split, she was left with literally nothing. Since the split, she has been relying on the kindness of friends to get by. She has mostly been staying with one friend in particular, but lots of her friends have been pitching in to help meet her needs. Currently, she is attempting to support herself by trying to find work as a freelance artist, which she refers to as hustling. Most of the money she makes immediately goes back into art supplies. I live in a different state from her currently, and am barely scraping by myself with a child to care for, so I have not been able to help her financially. Instead, I just try to be a sympathetic ear for her to vent to, and I've let her know that I don't mind her venting to me. It is also important to note that when she was with her ex, they would often help their friends make ends meet financially. She has helped me and my family more than once. Yesterday, we were talking on the phone, and she mentioned that she couldn't afford food. She said that for the past few days, she's barely eaten anything, and she doesn't want to ask the friend she is staying with for food, because she feels like that friend is already doing too much. I mentioned that she should try looking into some local food banks in her area, and she became extremely offended. She said, "You know, you'd just think that with all the people I've helped over the years that I wouldn't have to turn to that. It's embarrassing." I told her that I wish I could help her myself, but that I only have $100 until next payday, and I have to put my child first. I offered to help her by doing some Googling for her about her options, but she insisted that taking food from a charity was embarrassing and unacceptable. I reminded her that everyone goes through difficult times, and it's not embarrassing to ask for help. I asked her if she looked down on her friends who had needed help over the years, and she said that she didn't, but that she just wasn't used to being the person in need. She then ended the call, saying she needed to get back to work, and I get the feeling that I offended her. So Reddit AITA for asking to wear pants to my sister-in-law's wedding. I, Olivia, 27, love photography, and my SIL, Samantha, 27. When she announced her wedding, I volunteered to be her photographer, completely free of charge. She lives hours away, and I wanted to help with the stress. Big mistake. Because I enjoy being creative, I also designed her invitations, table numbers, wedding website, playlists, and bridal shower games. I even took a vacation day to help set up. She asked me to organize the wedding timeline, which I did, and she's always had access to it. But with every task, she became more demanding. Some mornings I'd wake up to 20+ texts full of requests, some of the more ridiculous ones. She insisted I make a custom cocktail hour playlist instead of using a pre-made one. She demanded I attend a second rehearsal, even after I said I had an exam to study for. She assumed I'd photograph her bridal shower and rehearsal without asking. And the kicker? She insists I wear a floor-length gown and heels while photographing the wedding. I'm not in the wedding party. I won't even be in pictures because I'm taking them. Long fabric plus heels, plus running around a venue. I'll be tripping all day. I asked months ago to wear something more practical, and she completely shut it down. On top of this, family drama has made things worse. My FIL has been gossiping about the siblings. When my husband and I refused to engage, he called us self-righteous, causing a rift. I assured Samantha I'd remain civil. That word is important later. I recently found out she's been complaining about me, saying, "I don't know what's going on with the wedding because Olivia hasn't responded," and blaming me for her not hanging out with everyone. She's also mocked my husband and me for our faith, jealous that other siblings are closer to us because we attend the same church. Now, a week before the wedding, I finally put my foot down. I told her she should assign a bridesmaid to coordinate the day of because I can't be both photographer and coordinator. I need to wear pants and comfy shoes to do my job, but would change into a dress after major events. Her response, I thought we agreed to keep things civil. Did I do something offensive? I'm trying to keep this wedding less stressful as much as I can. Civil? If anyone has made this wedding less stressful, it's me. I don't think she's concerned about me, just that she won't get more out of me. I love her, but enough is enough. I have exams. My cat just had surgery for a possibly cancerous tumor, and I was sick for a month leading up to this. I understand I signed myself up for all these duties, and I'm asking to change my outfit last minute, but I feel completely taken advantage of. AITA?
Dougie AITA. If I went against my mom wish because of her comment about my wedding dress, my fiancé and I are planning for our wedding later this year. For background, both of us are Asian, so both families are very strict. I have a lot of tattoos. My parents don't like them, and my mom really hates it whenever I wear something that shows my tattoos. My fiancé's family has seen the tattoos on my arm, but not on my back, about 1-2 of my back. I don't know how they feel about it, but my fiancé doesn't care, and he thinks my tattoos look great. BTW, fiancé also has a couple tattoos. Another thing is my fiancé is a doctor. Most of his family and friends are doctors. My mom said lots of older people from both families will be attending, and lots of them are doctors, so she wants me to wear something more conservative. I bought a long sleeves, high neck wedding dress that basically covers most of my tattoos because I considered my parents' feelings. I like the dress, but it's not really myself. So I ordered a custom designed dress to wear for the first look, then changed to the other one for the reception. This dress is a little more revealing, strapless, sleeveless, corset style, so my back tattoos will be showing. My fiancé thinks I should just wear this one to the reception because he wants me to wear what I truly want. I told him I don't know how his family will feel about it, but he doesn't care. I was pretty much set on wearing the high neck dress at the reception, even though fiancé keeps telling me to wear the other one. But this morning when I told my mom I ordered a second dress, she started shaming me. She said it's trashy to show my tattoos in front of everyone. I'd look ugly in that dress because I have a big scar on my chest. It took me a long time to be okay with wearing V-neck because of this scar, and how it would be disrespectful to my fiancé and his family. I was heartbroken. I feel like these are very mean comments, especially about my look on my wedding day. My fiancé is very upset for me. He insists I wear the custom-made dress to the reception. He doesn't care what anyone says. I'm considering wearing that dress too, but I don't know if I would be the AH, especially when it could potentially embarrass my parents in front of everyone.
AITA for telling my friend to stop farting during our workouts at the gym. I go to the gym every day with a friend, and over the past few days, we've been working out together. He's busted a few gnarly farts, and at first, I let it slide since he said he couldn't help it. But eventually, it started to bother me. I like the guy, but I've become more direct lately, mentioning that no one wants to smell his ass. I'm not trying to be bombed out of my workout, and I can literally catch his scent whether we're on the treadmill or lifting weights. It's even worse when I get on a machine after he farts because the smell lingers, and it's just unpleasant. What's even more embarrassing is that I'm worried others might think it's me. I don't want to be blamed for someone else's discomfort because they're smelling his farts around the gym. I've said it's too easy to excuse himself to the bathroom, but I guess that's too much to ask. I don't want my friend to hold his farts in and be uncomfortable, but I just find it inconsiderate. I guess I could do my own workouts, but I'm still worried someone will say something to him about it. I don't want him to be embarrassed. Maybe I already embarrassed him by calling it out. I just want him to stop doing it in public while working out. Is it too much to ask to go somewhere private?